Before the New York Jets kicked off this evening, we said it was about tackling and finding out if you were a bottom of the bottom tier team. And I think we got our answer tonight. I'm Glenn Naughton with Jet Nation Radio, jetnation.com. Be sure to log into jetnation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. 27-21, ugly, ugly loss. A lot of the same from the Jets that we've seen all year. Poor tackling, lots of penalties, 3 turnovers. Jets turned it over 3. The Dolphins hadn't forced a turnover this year, and they forced 3 today against the Jets. 10 penalties, 11 penalties. Oh, wait, I think it was 13. 13 penalties for over 100 yards. This was embarrassing, folks. 27-21, it did not feel like a 27-21 football game. This felt like a 30-point loss. Again, you're playing another 0-3 team. They lost Tyreek Hill halfway through the game. Miami loses their best receiver. Jets had no answer all night. Devin A. Chain, who I, again, talked about before the game, I said, if you don't tackle, he's going to have a big game. I think he went over 100. What were his numbers for the night? I'm going to pull those up real quick. Oh, I stand corrected. 20 for 99. So he kept them under 100. Just another really bad showing from the Jets. Couldn't answer. 2 only threw for 177. Felt like a lot more than that because he just kind of like with the Bills with Josh Allen. The numbers weren't big, but whenever he needed a throw, he made it. Jets had no answer. Did he actually finish 17 for 25, which isn't a bad number overall, but considering I feel like he started like 8 for 10 or something like that. But either way, doesn't matter. Jets lose. Aaron Glenn says after the game that it's a very disappointing loss. You can't win a football game with 13 flags and 3 turnovers. Got to learn not to lose before you can learn how to win. Pre-snap penalties were a killer, no kidding. What else did he have to say? That he has not lost faith in his team. No kidding. It's 4 games in. Says Justin Fields was dealing late in the game. Like the way the quarterback was throwing the football. Said he has to see the film more to get a more accurate picture of the entire performance. Asked about getting the ball to Garrett Wilson more. He said, well, we were running it well early on, well enough that we didn't want to try to force it to Garrett. He says it's got to get back to work, and his confidence will not wane one bit. Well, I'll tell you what. Remember the good old days of Robert Saleh when the Jets were still in it in October? When you kind of knew they weren't going to make the playoffs. I guess last year you didn't because you had Aaron Rodgers. You hoped they'd get going. But, I remember thinking last year, God, can they just – I think I said it last year, the week before Halloween. Can we just have a season where this team isn't – forget about meaningful football in December. Can we not be eliminated by Halloween? This year, they didn't even make it to October. Not even October yet. The Jets are 0-4 and they're bad. Bad 0-4 teams do not make the playoffs. I'm sorry, Jets fans. Every now and then you see a story where like this team started 0-3 or this team was, I don't know if there's any 0-4s, but like there, every now and then there's like this obscure, don't lose faith. This team did it. And then you look at that team and you're like, yeah, but they were good. They just got off to a bad start, but they were good. So that's why they made it to the playoffs. Bad teams don't start 0-4 and then make the playoffs. And that's what the Jets are. They're a bad team. I said going into this that, as I said before the game, that this was the reason this was an important game is because you would find out, are the Jets we know they're a bottom tier team, but it's like, are they bottom tier, but, good enough to beat other bottom tier teams where you say, all right, maybe you're at the top of that tier. You're inching toward a mid-tier team. No. Jets went out and got killed. Justin Fields, part of this isn't on him. It's not just him. And what I mean by that is, and I've talked about this. I've talked about how, and I saw Dan Leberfeld of Jets Confidential has tweeted this a few times in recent weeks, and I think I mentioned it then because I've always had a similar opinion that when a player, when you know what a player is, but you keep playing him, at what point is it no longer his fault? And Dan tweeted it out again tonight. Justin Fields right now is largely the guy he's always been as a pro. The throws tonight, his first 7, 8, 9, 10 throws, was there a spiral in there at any point? Wobbler, wobbler, duck, duck, wobbler. And like bad placement, which you kind of expect when you're throwing ducks. But it was, and a part of me's going, well, maybe the football's wet. The turf's a little bit wet. You see players slipping and sliding. First 2-3 plays from scrimmage, A-Chain slipped on the first play. And then the second or third play, McGregor slipped trying to change direction. So early on, it's like, all right, well, there's some moisture on the turf tonight on the field, obviously. It's going to be an issue. Tua didn't have a problem. So on the one hand, I'm going, all right, well, cut Fields a little bit of slack. He's throwing wobbler after wobbler, but, maybe the ball's wet. And then I'm watching Tua, and I'm like, well, Tua playing on the same field. Football appears to be dry when he's throwing it. So you've got him throwing wobblers. You've got him throwing off-target passes, but this team is so weird. This season really needs to be about evaluating Justin Fields because you don't know if you have a quarterback. And you're down multiple touchdowns, third quarter, and you run it 3 plays in a row and punt. It's like they paid a guy $30 million to prove that they could hide him. Eventually, they let him throw it a little bit, and he made a couple of good throws. He hit Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor is probably the biggest story of the game for the Jets because he didn't go off, he didn't go crazy, but he had himself a solid day. I believe, 5 catches? I'm going to pull it up right now. 5 for 50, somewhere in that neighborhood. 5 for 65. Okay, well, there's the biggest bright spot for the Jets today, is that they may have had another target emerge as an option for the quarterback. But Justin Fields, why give him $30 million and hide him? I don't get it. The refs, I get it. I already see comments in the chat. People commented during the game on Twitter. I fired off. I mean, the non-call on Rucker. I mean, he's down. The whistle has already blown. Dude coming up from behind him. I watched it a couple times. The guy had momentum. He couldn't stop on a dime. He didn't have to throw himself on top of Rucker. Could have just run past him or jumped over him. No, just, I got momentum. I'm heading in that general direction. I'm going to go ahead and throw myself at his, upper back, lower neck, whatever the hell you want to call it. And I'll plant myself on the back of this dude. Refs, nothing. I mean, Aaron Glenn, you saw him out there pleading, like, what are you doing here? The offensive pass interference on Garrett Wilson, are you kidding me? That was the exact same thing that Mike Evans was doing last week to Sauce Gardner. Reaching back, looking up at the ball, reaches back, pushes off the receiver. Sauce grabs Evans' arm, like, hey, man, that's a little bit of back and forth. You're going to grab at me, I'm going to grab at you. Sauce gets flagged. Today, Garrett Wilson, much more subtle. Push off, up, flag, no touchdown. But you know what? Look, I'm not even going to get it. We shouldn't even be complaining about the referees, honestly. Yes, they were bad. Yes, they missed calls. But the Jets beat themselves. That opening drive was their best drive of the year until Braylon Allen. The Jets were marching right down the field, 11, 12 plays, whatever it was. Only threw the ball once or twice, just run after run after run. All 3 running backs, Isaiah Davis, Braylon Allen, Breece Hall, everybody getting carries, churning down the field. Braylon Allen up the middle, looks like he's got an easy touchdown. DB reaches in as Allen is diving toward the goal line, reaches in with his right arm, punches the ball out. Tillman peanut punch, right? Forces the fumble. Miami gets it. Then Braylon Allen fumbles again on a kick return, loses that one, and gets hurt. Hope he's okay. Took a really pretty big shot to the knee. Was walking off very, very gingerly. He did not look good there. Aaron Glenn, no updates on the injuries. Michael Carter also left injured. Aaron Glenn, no update on Carter or Allen. Just said, they're injured. They'll get tests. We'll see where they're at. Just a bad game overall. Again, a couple of good moments. Breece had himself a good day on the ground, 14 for 81. But really, I mean, all stuff that doesn't matter because you lost a game to the 0-3 Dolphins. This was like I said, I know several people who I talked to who were like, "Hey, man, this is where they can start a run." You know, they played really good, and I even said like this. I mean, I didn't say they were going to go on a run. I picked them to lose this game. I think I said 27-17, I think was my predicted score. Um, but if they were going to go on a run, this was the time to start it. And so much for that. So much for that. Justin Fields, we'll run through the numbers real quick. Justin Fields goes 20 of 27 for 226, one touchdown. That was to Garrett Wilson. Had him one-on-one through one-on-one through a deep ball to the right corner of the end zone. Garrett was able to stay in bounds as he gained possession with the DB was playing through the ball, playing through his hands. He had his arm between Garrett Wilson's hands, and Garrett held on, stayed in bounds. Justin Fields tied. So this would have been 3 games in a row that Justin Fields led the Jets in rushing, but both he and Breece Hall ran for 81 yards. Justin Fields had a long touchdown run. Was it 43 yards or something? I forget. I think it was 42, 43 yards. Braylon Allen, 4 for 26. He was looking good before the fumble. Isaiah Davis, 3 for 9. Catching the football, Garrett Wilson, 6 for 82. Mason Taylor, as I mentioned, he had 5 for 65. Breece, 5 for 50. Ruckert, 1 for 23. Isaiah Davis, 2 for 18. Alan Lazard, 1 for 8. Defensively, Isaiah Oliver led the Jets in tackles. Well, he had 5 solo, 2 assists. Brandon Stevens, 5 and 3. Andre Cisco, 5 and 3. So those are solos and assists. I don't remember any sacks. No sacks for the Jets on defense. No interceptions. We don't do that. That's not a thing. Isaiah Williams. What are you doing, Isaiah Williams? The little-known receiver out of Illinois, who he's got the skill set to be a good return man. He was a good return man in college. I liked the addition when they needed somebody and they went out and got him. I thought, okay. And then last week on the show, I said I don't know why Braylon Allen is returning kicks when you've got Isaiah Williams. And then Braylon Allen fumbled, and I said I don't know why Braylon is returning kicks when you have Isaiah Williams. And then Isaiah Williams went out and fumbled because of course he did. Somebody told me, hey, Glenn said something nice about you. Make sure you make him look like a moron. And then he says, you know what? I'm going to double down on that. And he goes out later and fields a punt. Fair catch is a punt at the 2-yard line. I mean, folks, when you see mistakes of that magnitude being made at the NFL level, it's just mind-boggling. It's so like, are they coaching this guy? I mean, at every level, that's a basic thing that you're taught, right? Set up on the 10. Once you start walking back, walk away, let it go. He did not do that. We're going to jump in the chat real quick. First comment from Yita saying Jets didn't deserve to lose. Oh, not saying the Jets didn't deserve to lose, but what about the officiating? Yeah, covered that. They were hot garbage, as Quickzilla Note jumped in and said, Wilkes needs to be given the same vacation they gave Hackett last year. Would not disagree with that just a bit. Justin Jett says, look at the total rankings of every year. Glenn has ever been a DC. He was never a good DC. Everywhere he goes, bad defenses. Lions won because they scored 85 points a game, not because of the defense. I'll tell you what, Justin. I think you may be right. I'm not gonna lie. I think looking at the numbers, was it last week or the week before? I was like, maybe I gave Aaron Glenn too much credit because all we heard last year about the Lions is they've got a million injuries. They're doing it with mirrors, smoke and mirrors, and Aaron Glenn is finding a way. And I thought, yeah, if you're a D coordinator and you lose as many players as Aaron Glenn has lost, and you're still finding ways to win football games, you deserve some credit. But then I looked at his previous years when they didn't have a ton of injuries, and I was like, oh, they weren't as good as I thought. Why did I think they were a much better defense than they actually were? And that's I thought to myself, because I said pregame, why is it Aaron Glenn in Detroit? They get a million interceptions. Comes to the Jets, they can't get one. Well, in Detroit, you were always scoring 50 points a game. So you knew the other team was going to drop back and have to air it out and throw the ball down the field. And you can anticipate, and yeah, you can intercept some footballs when they're not running the ball down your throat. So yeah, I was like, you know what? Maybe it was a little romanticized because I was a big Aaron Glenn fan. Wanted him brought here, again, wanted an offensive coach, but I said a million times, if it's going to be a defensive guy, please let it be Aaron Glenn. Um, and look, I'm not bailing on the guy, but what we've seen so far is very discouraging. Uh, they have not gotten better really in any aspect. Justin says Fields is who he is. He was as expected. I'm trying to hang in there, Justin. I'm trying to not give up on the guy yet. Like I said, we've seen it now with Darnold and we've seen it with Geno. It's rare, but sometimes super talented quarterbacks need more time than you would generally like to give them. But it is not encouraging. I'm not making excuses for the guy. I'm not saying you're not justified in giving up on him. I'm just I'm not. It's 4 games. Jesus, it's 3 for Fields. The thought of like bailing now. And listen, I was never like over them. I've talked about this. I tweeted before free agency started. I said I have a bad feeling Justin Fields is going to be the Jets quarterback. And then about 5 minutes after that, I thought to myself, you know what though? With what's on the market, can I really blame? Like, what other options do you have? You weren't keeping Aaron Rodgers at his price. I'm not going to go back and look up the numbers because I talked about it a million times before they let him go and when they let him go. It was going to be like, if they'd have kept him this year, it would have been like 80 million or 65 million, something insane for one season. Because of this year's money with the bonuses he would have been due this past offseason. I think it was like 65 million, 70 million that the Jets would have had to pay Aaron Rodgers for 1 year. So that wasn't going to happen. And so much of it was in bonus money that had already been paid. There was no real, well, just restructure it. So I see people say, oh, he went to the Steelers and they only paid him like $43.26. Not really. Not really. They got him cheap because he didn't have guaranteed money on his deal that had already been paid. Once it's paid, that's it. There's no turning back. Kyler Murray, anyone this offseason? Kyler Murray? Scott says such a bad game. I know it's early, but there's no way this team even sniffs the playoffs, right? Yeah. No. Um, I said during the offseason, and I've repeated this a few times, so I apologize, but I said this could be a 4-win team, but I predicted 6. I wanted to be a little bit more optimistic and say, no, maybe a couple things break their way and they get 6 wins. 4 would not surprise me. But, the frustrating thing, though, that Braylon Allen fumble was such a game changer because they were dominating Miami up front. And I'm watching that game and I'm thinking, when teams struggle, what do? You go back to the ground game, reestablish your ground game, and just pound the opposing defensive line, beat up the front 7, dominate, time of possession, score on the ground, come away with a low-scoring win. And it felt like that's what was going to happen. That first drive, I was like, oh, this is it. They're going to run the ball 45, 50 times today. Go for it. You're down 3-0, but you're about to go up 7-3. And then the fumble. And then instead of 7-3, it's 10-0. And then Miami scores again, and you're like, oh, now you got to throw your way back into this game, which the Jets didn't do. Still running the ball down big, which I didn't love at some point. And listen, I get people, when I say, why aren't you throwing the ball more? Oh, they don't have another receiver. Okay. Alan Lazard. I'm not saying he's anything great, but he's been a guy that's put up 700-800 yards. He's 6'4". At no point in the game does he have a matchup where he can outjump somebody. At no point is he facing a DB who's 5'10", 5'11", 6 foot that he can outmuscle and outjump for an intermediate route or something down the field. He can't do that. Come on, folks. And look, we can talk about the drops all we want. He doesn't have 100% drop rate. Throw him 3 or 4 balls down the field. He'll catch a couple of them, which is a lot more than what you're getting right now, which is, again, Mason Taylor aside. Your receivers, you're getting nothing out of these guys. Don't tell me you can't. And look, the sorry, I digress. Jump back into the chat. Um, Stats look good, but Fields looked awful, says Scott. Yeah, listen, like I said, he threw a lot of wobblers, a lot of ducks, a lot of off target receivers having to kind of reach behind and adjust, and the ball is low and just not anything on target. Glenn, what are we even doing? Great question, Chris. Chris Schubert, good to see you, my friend. Who the hell knows? Who the hell? Look, playoffs. I mean, and we knew they weren't making the playoffs, but it was like, well, can you be like 3-5 and allow me this insane theory where, well, if they add a player and win a few in a row, they got a shot. Couldn't even give us that. Lose your first 4 games, done, season's over. It's crazy. Absolute lunacy. I said this playoff drought is going to hit a minimum of 17 years. Terrible. What are we doing anymore? I'll tell you what, as a Jets fan, that's a great question. And look, I see people, although no one really went after me yet, but I saw a couple tweets today during the game because I'm very active on Twitter. I try to record highlights and clips and send them out and share comments, and I see like the odd comment, "Oh, why are you being so negative?" I'm like, "How are you not? How is that not your default setting? 14-year playoff drought, 0-4, losing to an 0-3 team. Why are you so negative?" Jeez, what are you, insane? You a crazy person? I've said this for a couple years in a row now, and I said it again tonight because this team sucks every year. I feel so, my heart goes up. Listen, we need a GoFundMe to raise some money and send a present to whoever is tasked with running the Jets social media accounts. Some poor soul has to sit there and watch these games and wait for something remotely good or interesting to happen so they can tweet it out and get everyone fired up. Can you imagine if that was your job? If you had to sit there and wait for the Jets to do something right so that you can get everyone fired up about this 0-4 football team? Hey, that's 5 plays in a row without a flag. Get up, Jets fans. They had to tweet it because they'd done nothing for such a long stretch. They tweeted out, Garrett Wilson, first down. Ooh. First down. Man, they must have been all over that. Everyone in the office jumping up and down. We got something. We got a thing. Quick, where's the Twitter button? Send this one out. We got a first down in 2025 when other teams are scoring 70 points a game. We have to inform our fans that the chains are moving in the correct direction. I feel so terrible for those people. Poor people who run that damn thing. Hats off to you. Yeah, Todd says season's over in September. Absolutely. Matthias says 0-5 next week. You got it. Woody Johnson needs to sell the team, says Jason. It's not happening. Listen, Jason, I feel your pain. I get where you're coming from. But here's the way I put it to every Jets fan that says that. Would you sell the team if it was you? Not a chance. And you know you wouldn't. If I owned this team and they hadn't won a game for 20 years, I'd be like, it's still my team. I ain't selling it. It's the Jets. They suck, but they're mine, and I own them, and I'm not selling them. Especially, it's not like Woody Johnson's like living paycheck to paycheck, and he's like, if I sold this team, I could finally pay off the house. Money's no object to these people. He's already grooming his son to take over. This is a Johnson family business for the rest of my life and probably for the rest of the lives of many people watching. So I get it. I get the frustration, but get that idea out of your head. And if ever there was anything I hoped I was wrong about, let it be that. Let me wake up tomorrow to the news that Woody Johnson has sold the Jets to anybody. I don't care. And look, Woody's a nice guy. He means well. I don't have any hate for Woody the person, but Woody the owner has just been not good. He's the common denominator in all of this. But just another very sloppy football game from the New York Jets. We'll see the missed tackle numbers, when PFF or whoever puts them out. And I know that there were probably about 5 missed tackles on A Chain's touchdown run, which was an absolute embarrassment. Let's see. Just want to check. I forget. I want to take a look at again, the Jets secondary was putrid. I don't know why Sauce wasn't traveling with Tyreek Hill. I know people will say that wouldn't matter, but Sauce is he's still their best corner by far. So like him or not, struggling or not, penalties or not, allowing touchdowns or not, it's Darren Waller, who was retired from the NFL up until about 5 hours ago. And then he jumps back in the NFL and scores 2 touchdowns against the Jets. Tyreek Hill, before his leg turned sideways, dislocated kneecap. So it's bad, but I thought it was going to be a lot worse than that. At least that's the early report. It might be worse, and I hope it's not, and all that stuff. But I don't know how many people noticed that right away. But I was watching it the second he stood up. But as soon as he rolled to where you could see it, I was like, his leg isn't right. It just jumped out at me. I think the broadcast took a second, and then they were like, oh, he's down. It might be a knee. And I was like, yeah, you think? Legs aren't supposed to bend at those angles. So, but yeah, I'm sure he'll be fine. Dude was smiling away. I'm sure he was, smiling through some pain, no doubt. But credit to him for that. Let's see. Jason says he only hires first-time GMs and head coaches, so nothing changes. Again, can't argue that. The only non-first-timer was Adam Gase. He was the worst of the bunch, and that was Chris. Let's see. NFL needs to give Jets ownership a deadline. NFL doesn't care. The NFL doesn't care if the Jets never win another game. As long as they're making money, everybody's happy. Beloved Peace, how we doing, Beloved Peace? Says, how did we get here? How did we get here? Just inexperience. You brought in, and I don't want to beat this drum. People are probably tired of hearing it, but people got mad at me all offseason for saying it. You need some experience on a coaching staff. Steve Wilkes is the most experienced coach on the staff, and his track record isn't all that great. When Steve Wilkes is like the wise elder on your coaching staff, and everybody else is brand new, and this is what you get. Look, it's not. I think some fans underestimate the importance of good coaching and also don't understand how hard it is to find good coaching. And we don't know what Aaron Glenn is going to be. And I had hoped there would be some veterans added to the staff, and it was Wilkes. And I was like, all right, well, interim head coach experience, I guess. But, his numbers aren't great as a coordinator. Couple good years, few bad years. So how we get here is you bring in a quarterback who's on his 3rd team in 3 years because you don't have a quarterback. You kicked Aaron Rodgers to the curb because you didn't want to, you couldn't pay him all that money for 1 year. You're bringing a struggling Justin Fields, rookie head coach, and I've said it a million times. People are tired of hearing it. I'm sorry. But rookie head coach, rookie OC, rookie O-line coach, rookie special teams coordinator, unproven, poor quarterbacks coach, just all across the board. Just youth. Everywhere you look, I looked at this staff in the offseason and I was like, who's the elder? Who's the guy that, coaches can turn to when things aren't going well and say, hey, what are we doing wrong? Let's do some self-scouting. Wildwave, good to see you, bud. Glad you're here. Always good for you to join us. Let's see. Scott says the fact is Justin Fields is a backup on any good team. Probably right. The Steelers wanted him back. They went 4-2 with him last year. But listen, I said it when the Jets signed him. After going back, I watched every one of his starts, and I was like, yes, he went 4-2. but there were no. I didn't see any games where I'm like, wow, like they needed Justin Fields to make some big time throws, and he delivered. It was dink and dunk and dink and dunk and dink and dunk and screens and quick hitters and a few intermediates. Very rare with the deep ball. And it's a shame that he had that one taken away to Garrett today because that should have counted. And that was a good throw. That was a good spot. Only Garrett could get it. All that stuff, exactly what you're looking for. So Fields did get robbed there. You feel for him. That would have given him 2 touchdown passes plus the touchdown run. Like then things look a lot different. But that was a bad job by the refs. But yeah, Justin Fields is a guy who is an electric runner, but an erratic thrower. That's what he's been. That's what he continues to be. I hope that changes. I believe the odds of that are very low, but I thought the odds of that were low with Gino. I thought the odds of that were low with Sam. Of course, they worked out elsewhere. I'm just glad. I'll tell you what. When the Dolphins went up by 2 touchdowns, I thought they're going to go up by 3 touchdowns. And then we're going to see Zach Wilson come in the game in the fourth quarter for a couple drives, and he's going to drop a touchdown, and it's just going to be humiliating. So at least by scoring and getting somewhat, back in it on the scoreboard anyway, some window dressing on the scoreboard. Scott says that's what I think. He's a good backup quarterback, but he's not a starter on any elite team in the NFL. I bet he doesn't sniff the field. Good chance of that. Justin says, I always liked Sam. He had some stinker games, but he always showed promise. The thing with Sam, I'm not going to rewrite history on my takes with him. I wasn't, a lot of fans hated Sam by the time he left. And I was like, he still just hasn't been in a good spot. Like Justin Fields, you can argue he doesn't have great receivers, but you know what? He's got a good offensive line. We haven't seen the all-22 on this one, but we did see on previous games earlier in the year where he had wide open guys that he either missed, that he targeted and missed, or guys he just didn't even see. So Fields, to me, has a much better supporting cast than Darnold had, especially in terms of pass pro. Let's see. Beloved Peace, I think they give Glenn and Muji at least 3 years unless they go 0-17. They'll be drafting a QB next year. Tell you what, I don't know when I'm going to do a show on this. I might do it tomorrow. But this QB situation is not looking good. I think a lot of these guys, Nussmeier, Klubnik, Arch, couple others whose names I can't think of at the moment, who we really liked coming into the season. Maybe Lenora Sellers. I think he's got eligibility left. But I think a lot of these guys are going back to college. I think there are going to be 1 or 2 quarterbacks worth taking in the first round. And then if the Jets do, who's developing them? Charles London, who has never developed a quarterback? Not once. The best case scenario is you draft a guy and there's a QB guru out there. Even that term gets overused. There's just a guy who has developed a quarterback or 2 with some degree of success, greater than that of Charles London. And maybe he likes the guy you bring. Maybe there's a coordinator out there, maybe there's a QB coach out there who thinks, man, I really like Lenora Sellers, and the Jets drafted him, and now they're calling. Yeah, I'm going to go work with that kid. Maybe that happens. But if not, I'll tell you what, it's this is the problem. And I asked this on Jet Nation the other day on the forums. Because I still maintain, although the Saints, man, they played the Bills like that was something else. That might have just been pride because the Saints got whooped up on the previous week. Like I said, 35-3, 38-3 at the half. Previous week for the New Orleans Saints. But I think they will end up picking 1 overall. And if we're doing the math here, if the Saints are picking 1, and there's only 1, perhaps 2 quarterbacks coming out that are worth taking, and the Saints take 1 of them, if you ain't picking 2, and team 2 needs a quarterback also, I mean, Bryce Young's been up and down, up and down. Panthers have days where they look like a pretty good team. Then they have days where they're like, whew, they need a quarterback too. Um, but the bottom line, what I'm getting at here is if the Jets are not picking one, which I don't think they will, there's a good chance they're going to get a quarterback that doesn't carry a true first round grade or maybe carries a late round one grade. And then it's like, do you reach like dramatically, massively, and take a guy 15, 20, 30, 40 spots too early just to have a guy? Or do you say, you know what? Let's draft a wide receiver. Finally. I know Garrett, I get it, but they've needed somebody opposite him for a while now. Do you draft a receiver? Do you just go best player available? What if it's Peter Woods? What if it's a DT? What if the best player on your board, you think the best player in the draft is a DT and you're picking 2 or 3 and the quarterbacks stink? You taking a quarterback that stinks just for the sake of it? We got to see who makes the free agency. I think, again, I don't love the idea, but I was looking at a list of pending free agents, guys who could reach free agency, and a lot of times guys don't. But with the way things are going in Arizona, would anyone be shocked if the Cardinals moved on from Kyler Murray? I think they haven't. I don't know if his deal expires or if they have an out. I'm sure I saw his name on a 2026 free agents list. If he hits free agency and the Cardinals decide we don't want to bring him back, and Aaron Glenn loves his dynamic running quarterbacks, he's certainly better than Justin Fields. Could the Jets say, you know what, let's go get this guy? Might be a tough sell with Woody because you're still paying Fields 15, 20 million guaranteed, 15 million. Absolutely ridiculous. Wild Wave says, I'll be honest, I'd trade the pick, to be honest. This team has too many holes. Caleb Downs and Ruben Bain would be lovely. Listen, I love Caleb Downs. The problem is, though, Wild Wave, and this is my opinion. I think the biggest holes are coaching staff. I think the O-line is fine. I think, obviously, you need another receiver. You could use another pass rusher, but really, if Jermaine Johnson, we'll see how the rest of this year goes. He's missed another game, but say he comes back in a week or two and plays through the rest of the year, then, yeah, you could use another edge rusher, but you don't need one in the first round. I think that there are needs, but there is also, I think, enough talent here that with good coaching, I think this team would be much better right now. And I think, listen, I'm not going to get into. I love Membu. I mocked him to the Jets. I named him as a guy that I really liked before the combine, before everybody was talking about him. The threads there on Jet Nation with me saying, hey, just check out this kid from Mizzou. He looks like a second round talent. I think I said top 50 guy. And then I watched a couple more of his games. I was like, he's actually a first round guy. So I love Membu. Don't get me wrong. But man, would I really like to have Ted McMillan on this team right now. Opposite Garrett Wilson. Ted McMillan is number 1 or 2 in receiving yards among rookie receivers. I think only him and Aguka are the only 2 rookie receivers with over 200 yards right now. And I would have grabbed someone else to tackle. But, look, water under the bridge, bygones, all that. It's done, it's over. But it's tough to watch these receivers not do anything outside of Garrett Wilson and not think, damn, could have grabbed a receiver in this draft. Arian Smith. Someone tweeted to me that, they don't have guys who can get open. Well, then you drafted a guy who runs 4.2 and nobody can figure out a way to get him open. That's not a great sign. Rough times, Jets fans. Long year ahead. It's not going to be easy. There's going to be a lot more losses coming. I do look back at, I talked recently about how the last time the Jets defense gave up 30 a game for the first 3 games was the Herm Edwards, you play to win the game speech that year. And it's so long ago, I can't remember, but I have a really good, like if I had to bet, I'd bet a fair bit of money that the biggest problem with that team early on when they were 2-5 or whatever it was, they weren't tackling. The tackling was terrible. And then at some point, they got their act together. They started wrapping up. Defense stopped giving up big plays. And they went on a run. and won a bunch of football games. I'm not saying that's going to happen here. That's not what I'm predicting. But it's like, can you at least be competitive? Can you at least stop embarrassing yourself? You got the Cowboys up next. Cowboys just put up 40. Dak, I mean, the way Tua just, I don't see that being a win. Then they come out here to London, like I said, to ruin my weekend. Going to bring the family. It's going to, the amount of money I'm going to spend to let the Jets ruin my weekend. We belong in institutions, Jets fans. We're not well. How I don't know what we're doing here. As our friend Chris says, what are we doing? I don't know. I don't know. We're watching our favorite football team get their asses kicked on a regular basis for weeks on end, for years on end, for what will be the better part of 2 decades by the time they're good again. Taking years off of our lives, folks. Years off our lives. Wrapping up in the chat, again from Wild Wave. Wilkes has done a good job in Carolina. Was scapegoated in San Fran. He just doesn't have the personnel to run his defense. Like I said, I'd have to go back and look Wild Wave, but I feel like when he was hired, I checked, and he was one of those coordinators. Good year, bad year. Good year, bad year. Good, just no consistency. And yeah, the San Fran thing, they blew a 1,000,000-point lead. He got scapegoated, but it's also a horrible job to give up that many points when you have a big lead in the postseason. And Scott says he's at a point where you bench Lazard and play Arian Smith opposite Wilson. I'll tell you why I don't think that happens, Scott. Lazard, say what you will about him, but the dude throws some pretty good blocks for a receiver. And that you're not going to get that from Arian Smith. You might get the effort, but Lazard is just a bigger, more physical guy. And they're going to be so reliant on the run. Now, look, go 3 wide, go 4 wide, get him on the field by all means. But, and really, between him and Reynolds, I'd have to look at the snap split tonight. I'm not sure. It wasn't, around 50-50. I don't know what it was, but I did see both of them a fair bit. And Beloved Peace says, according to Rich Cimini, AG was screaming at the team after the game. And listen, really good question from Connor Hughes after the game. And it's a weird thing, right? But sometimes the most obvious thing, right? And Connor Hughes said, this might sound, I forget the term he used, dumb or elementary, whatever it was. But he basically said, look, how is this still a thing with the penalties, Aaron Glenn? With all the emphasis you've put on it from the start of training camp through now, and it's still a thing. How is it still a thing? And Aaron Glenn was yeah, you're right. We just got to, look at it. I don't know how long you can look at it. Bench guys. I get, if you're gonna jump, false start, illegal motion, whatever, that you're out for a series, for the quarter. Oh no, but then you're gonna have to play max measure. All right, good. But maybe somebody will be like, you know what? Maybe I'll stay on side. Maybe I'll wait for the snap before I jump. Maybe I'll make sure I'm in position. Maybe I'll make sure I get down. I'm, lined up for more than a split second. You got to do something. And yeah, if Aaron Glenn's yelling at guys, great. But I'm sure they've been yelled at in camp, and that didn't work. So, and I forget the coach that said it, but he was like, look, the most valuable thing I can take from a guy's playing time, because guys want to play. So start pulling dudes. Make that a rule. You get a flag, you're out for the quarter. I don't know if the Jets can do that. They'd have to carry 14 offensive linemen on game day. But it's just absurd at this point. It really is. Absolutely nuts. Wild Wave says Aaron Glenn should save his voice. The team just sucks. I'm starting to think we overhyped Joe Douglas. Team has no depth. Well, I think some of the depth they let go. Like I felt like Brandon Echols was a solid backup corner. Let him go. And honestly, I'd have to look at I think Xavier Newman's a solid depth piece. I don't think he's terrible. I think at tackle, I prefer Carter Warren to Max Mitchell, but as others have said to me, that's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, perhaps. But I think I still think there's, again, I said it earlier. I mean, I don't know that letting Devontae Adams go was a great idea. I don't know if they tried to re-sign him. I'm sure he probably didn't want to stay, but I doubt they even tried to convince him. If you still had him around, but not getting the favored treatment he was getting from Aaron Rodgers. Maybe Garrett Wilson's not disgruntled, and you're sort of heading in the right direction, but it's just ugly. And there's no, you can't make any excuses. Our receiver core is so bad, says Scott, and it is. It is. But get Arian Smith some targets. And like I said, best thing about tonight was seeing Mason Taylor step up 5 for 55, whatever it was, do enough to get defenses to think, oh, they have two guys now we have to worry about instead of just one. Because when Aaron Glenn said at the start of the season, and I get that he can't knock his guys, but he was asked, hey, coach, season's about to start. How do you feel about your receiver room? Oh, yeah, Josh Reynolds. He just knows how to get open. He knows how to get separation. Same with Tyler Johnson. Okay, if you say so. I don't. And look, with Reynolds, I said at the time when they signed him, I said, who cares? Then I went and watched a bunch of his film, and I was like, oh, not bad. I feel a little better about this. But then I was like, wait a minute, that's 2 years ago film, because he was hurt and didn't play much last year. And I'm not saying he was great. Like, he was an okay player, then misses a year due to injury. How serious was the injury? Is he going to be any good when he gets back? And he's not playing in Detroit. And he's been absolutely 1,000,000% invisible, non-factor, non-existent. Last one, Scott says, I think they should give Glenn and Muji at least one more year. Oh, okay. At least one more year too, as in also. It's a bad example of a year because they came into a mess, but I really think next year they could be one on the hot seat. Yeah, well, again, that's the thing though. I mean, when I think mess, I think of what Mike McCagnon inherited, of what Joe Douglas inherited. Like, Joe Douglas had 2 or 3 NFL players on his roster. And, and Idzik, I've seen people say, oh, he inherited Mangold and Brick. Yeah, at the end, they were on their last legs. Glenn, what did you expect AG to say? We have a lot of dead money this year, and next year we're roughly 40 million in dead. Yeah, look, they're going to have a bunch of money next year, but I'm not trying to be a contrarian, Wild Wave, or be a jerk, but God, I've seen a lot of spending sprees. So many spending sprees, and more often than not, they just don't work. But what are you going to do? You got to get better, add players. Jets they're going to have a ton of cap space. Maybe they spend some of that money on Kyler Murray. Who knows? I'm going to take a look at the full list of available free agents next year, but it's not good, folks. The Jets are not in a good spot. They are 0-4. They do not have a quarterback. The quarterback draft class is looking pretty rough. Good quarterbacks rarely hit free agency. So there's a good chance next year you're either reaching dramatically for a quarterback, or you're going with Justin Fields again, or some other retread from somewhere else. Which is why I've said, at best, the best case scenario the Jets fans can hope for is that this playoff drought ends after 17 seasons a couple of years from now. It will hit 15 this year. I believe it'll hit 16 again the following year. It's year 17 where if things go well, will have a shot to make the playoffs. It sucks. I know. I feel for you. We're all in this together. Have a good one, Jets.